here comes the fun part. Now that we understand our expenses, we have to figure out how much we need to make in order to make sure that all our bills are paid on time. So first, let's work backwards to figure out how much gross commission income we need to make. So what I've done here, this automatically pulls from your total expenses needed for the month in the previous spreadsheet. So if you filled out the expense worksheet, you'll see on the top here that you have a total monthly expense of the $6,910, and that is where the number is being pulled from. But if you want to look at a different number, let's say just for personal expenses or just for business expenses, you can type that in manually as well. So we have the income needed to pay everything every single month is $6,910. And here you can input what you want to save monthly or if there are any debt repayment goals you'd like to include. And just to be on the conservative side, I've put a potential tax liability of 30%, and that will lead to your gross commission income. So to recap, this shows us that we have almost $7,000 in business and personal expenses. We want to save $300 a month, and we have a debt repayment goal of student loans, consumer debt, what have you, at $300. And this works backwards off of the total amount that we'll need. So let's assume that we have to have 30% of what we make go into taxes, and that will give you a gross commission income needed of $10,728.57. And what that looks like for the year is that we need a gross commission income of $128,742.86. So now that we have that information, we need to figure out what our business actually needs to look like to hit these goals. So you'll see this first section titled Listing Stats, and the second section that is titled Buyer Stats. So the first place we want to start is write down the percentage of your business that is listings. So let's say 60% of your business is listings. That means 40% of your business are buyers. And you want to put in your average commission for listings. Some people, it might be 3%, it might be less, it might be more. But take a look at your past transactions, or if you don't have any transactions under your belt yet, just put what you think your average commission will be for those homes. Next, you want to put in the average closed price of those homes. So you can look at past historical data of your closings or put what the average home price seems to be in the area that you serve. And this next section lists out the commission split that you keep. So if you are on a team or if you are working with leads that you have to pay for, write down the percentage of that total commission check that you keep. And so this yellow section will show you the total that you need from the listing side. So you'll need 10 transactions, and based off the average commission and your average close price, you'll be making approximately $7,600, and that will bring you to a total of $77,000 that you'll get from listings. This next section I'd like to include because I want you to see what does my business activity need to look like to reasonably get to this 10 listings at $7,600 per transaction. So the numbers that you'll have to enter are your percentages right here. So in order to have 10 listings sold, we need to figure out what percentage of our listings actually sell. So let's say, for example, out of 10 listings, I have 80% of them actually sell, and the other 2 are either canceled or expire. So I would put that 80% here. So that means we need around 13 listings to actually get to the 10 listings sold. Now let's work back from the listing. So what is the percentage of listing appointments you have to actual listings signed? And so let's say my ratio is about 75%. So 75% of the presentations I do actually sign with me and move forward. Your ratios can depend, but you can put that here. So in order to have 13 listings signed, I need to have 17 presentations annually. Now, what does this mean in terms of weekly and monthly activity? So in order to have 17 presentations annually, then that means I need to have about 1.4, and you can round this up. I need to have 2 presentations monthly, and 2 presentations monthly means I need to have 0.34 presentations per week. And this accommodates for a 2-week vacation out of the year. So I really like doing this because it gives you perspective. If I really think about it, for me to hit this big goal for myself, I need to just be doing a little over one listing presentation a month. All right, so now let's talk about the buyer stats. So we mentioned before that 60% of my business is listings, which means 40% are buyers. You can put in the average commission for your buyer clients and average closed price of those homes. And you can also include the commission split that you keep. And so that will bring us to needing 7 transactions at around $7,600. And that will net me about $51,000. And if you want to take a look at what activity that will mean, then in order to have 7 buyers sold, that means that I need to figure out how many people I close given the number of buyers that I sign. So with buyers too, depending on the market and depending on who is reaching out to you, there can be buyers who sign the buyer brokerage agreement. Maybe they do a couple showings, but they don't actually close on a home. And so that is what this percentage is for. And so in this case, let's say I have a higher percentage of closing listings and higher percentage of people signing a buyer brokerage agreement with me. So based off of 90% out of 7.5 buyers that I sign, I sell 7 of them homes. And then in order to figure out how many appointments I need, let's say if I have 7.5 buyers sign a buyer brokerage agreement and I close 90% of them in my appointments, then that means I need 8 appointments to get to around 7.5 buyers signing the buyer brokerage agreement. And in order to have 8 appointments annually, then that means I need 0.7 appointments a month. And in order to have 0.7 appointments a month, that means I need to have 0.17 appointments every week. And so I think this exercise is really helpful because it gives us an idea of how much we need to make, as well as the action steps we need to take to accomplish these goals. And I think just looking at this number of having 0.7 buyer appointments a month, I think it gives me a lot of hope because, we can all do that. So down here, you'll see the total goals for the year. You'll see a section for all your monthly numbers that you would have to hit that GCI number at the very top. And you can also see on the right-hand side the numbers that you need for the year. So if you look, you'll see you'll need 1.4 listing appointments every month to take right around 1 listing, and you'll need to close. Of course, you can round this up, but I've left it in decimals just so you can see, because for the buyer section, if I didn't have these decimals, you would see that everything says 1. But essentially, you need 1 buyer appointment to take approximately 0.6, 1 buyer, and then close them. And so monthly, you're looking at 1.4 closings a month. And for the year, you'll need around 16 to hit your annual goal of 128,000, your monthly goal of right around 10,000. I hope that helps and gives you some clarity in terms of your expenses, as well as what you would need to hit all of these goals and what numbers you can track on a monthly basis. And in the next spreadsheets, we'll go through tracking your transactions and looking at the full